So welcome you all in the fifth lecture of embedded system. So in the last lecture we have studied about different architectural design of microprocessor, microcontroller and microcomputer. Also in the last class we have seen the selection of microprocessor and microcontrollers. There are some parameters which need to be taken care. Also we have seen the instruction set architectures and different types of application specific information processor such as microcontroller and digital signal processor. Lastly, in the last lecture we have seen that currently the trend is to buy the intellectual properties which has synthesizable VHDL codes. Also continue with that lecture. Today we will see some examples to design a processor. What are the steps which are need to be followed. Also in the last lecture we have seen that for designing any microcontroller or microprocessor we need a control unit, right? And control unit was nothing but finite state machines, right? So today we will take an example to design a processor, right? So today we will take an example to design a single purpose processor. So what is actually single purpose processor? So we have seen general purpose processor, application specific information processor and application specific IC. So what is actually
single purpose processor? So single purpose processor is nothing but it is application specific, right? So if I talk about the difference between single purpose processor and application specific IC, in application specific IC everything is hardware, so programmability is not there. However, it is also for a single purpose, but there is a programmability. Right? So today we will continue the design of a single purpose processor with an example. So let's take a simple example to compute the GCD of two numbers, right? So if I compute the GCD using Euclid's algorithm, so which says that you compute the GCD of two number, if they are not equal then you do the continuous subtraction until you find a GCD. So what is the algorithm? So algorithm says that there are input x and y which could be taken as integer type and output is a GCD which will also be an integer, right? So first it will check x is equals to y or not. If x is not equal to y, it will go into this loop, while loop, otherwise directly you will get the GCD. So let's check this algorithm with an example. So let's take x equals to 15 and y equals to 10. So x is greater than y, so it will go in this particular loop. It will subtract x minus y, so you will get 5 and 10. Again you will check the loop, so again it will subtract y minus x, so you will get 5. So 5 is your GCD. Isn't clear? Is it clear? Okay. So this is the basic algorithm to compute the GCD. Now we will see that suppose we want to design a single purpose processor. Suppose we want to design a single purpose processor. So it needs some control signals and computations, right? So if you are using microprocessor or microcontrollers, we need to design the control unit, and control unit contains basically two blocks. One is controller, which sends the control signals, and another is a data path, where all the computations will be followed on the data. So we will see that in detail. So I am taking the slides from Wahid. Okay, I am borrowing slides from the Wahid from book A Unified Hardware Software Introduction. Right. So as I told, for designing any single purpose processor, we need a controller and a data path. Okay. So what is there in controller and data path? If we talk about controller, it contains next state control logic and some state registers. So state registers could be a program counter or instruction registers, right? And there are some flags as well. Also in the data path, you see the data path is nothing but the computations which will be happening in the set of registers. So it contains some set of registers, and there are some functional unit. What are the functional unit? The functional units could be adder, multiplier, or multiplexers, right? So these are some of the functional units which are available in the data path. So this let's say you want to perform an addition of two numbers, right? So it will get the numbers from the input. So input will be there, let's say xi and yi, right? So those numbers will be stored in the registers, right? So the numbers are stored. Now I have to perform the data. Now who will say that perform this time in the addition? So control signal will send a signal to perform the addition, and in that particular state it will perform the addition, right? So if I write the algorithm, what will be the algorithm? So let's write before defining any control unit, let's define it by a black box, right? So it is a black box named GCD. Okay, so this black box has some input and output, right? So xi is the input and yi is also the another input, and there is output, right? And the output is denoted by D0, and GOI is the signal to perform the GCD, right? Greatest common divisor, right? So go signal will say that you perform this GCD, right? So if I when this go signal will work, so go signal will be there when xi and yi are available. If xi and yi are not available, then go signal will be 0. So if I define the algorithm, so firstly I have to define the input x and y. Those are internal variables and those are of type integer. Okay, so this is not x and y. So what is x and y? I will tell you. So let's suppose this is the input xi and yi, right? So there should be some internal registers named as x and y. So this input is stored in x and this input will be stored in y. So we are defining this internal register as int type, and that is x and y. Now while 1, so when we want to perform the operation, there will be it will go inside the loop and it will check that inputs are available or not. If inputs are available, then what it will do, input xi will be assigned in x and input yi is assigned into y. Okay, now it will check with that algorithm that before computation of GCD, it will check x is equals to y or not. If x is not equal to y, it will go in this particular loop. So if you see, this complete algorithm is taking total number of states are 10 states. 10 states. Okay, so Now if I draw the state diagram for this algorithm, so what will be the state diagram for this algorithm? So if I see the state diagram, so the first state, I have to check that while loop is there or not. Okay, the next state I will check for the go signal. Okay, and in the 2j state, basically I have drawn it separately, but it could have been drawn in the self loop also. So in the third and fourth state, x is assigned to xi is assigned to x and yi is assigned to y, right? So this is how the number of states are drawn, like after which state another state will come. So we have a present state and we have the next state, right? So we have all the present state and we have the next state, and this you have studied in a digital circuit course, right? And that is called as state machines, right? So here we have the finite number of states, so we are calling it as finite state machine. So in a embedded system design, we have a controller as well as a data path, right? So we have to draw the control path and data path separately. So all the computation will be done in data path and all the control signals are given in the states, different states. So that will be there in the finite state machine. So here the name we call it as a finite state machine with data path, and we call it as FSMD, right? So we will see in detail what is the data path. Okay, so what is the data path? If I draw the data path is nothing but basically, as I told, that some computation, and computation will be done in registers, right? And there will be functional unit, adder or multiplier, whatever the functional unit which are used for that computation, right? And you have to connect, right? So these functional unit are triggered by the control signals. Okay, so the function unit could read or could write, or you can use multiplexer or multiple sources, right? So these are the basic blocks of the functional unit. So this is your state diagram for control signals. So this is your state diagram for the control signal, right? So after which state I have to go into which state, that is denoting as state diagram. So here it is going into 10 states. So we need a 4-bit minimum, right? 4 bits means we need 4 flip-flops, right? So minimum we need 4 flip-flop to compute the GCD. Now if I draw the data path, what will be there in the data path? Data path means you have the inputs, right? So first what it will do, it will compare the input, right? It will compare the input. So let's forget these two blocks as of now. What will happen? It will compare the input. So how it will compare? First it will store the x into x, xi into x and yi into y, right? So how many operations we are performing? One operation we are performing as comparison operation, another two are subtraction, and there is one more operation, that is assignment, right? So here is the assignment operations, right? So these are the operations which are performing in the data path. So now what will happen? You have x and you have y. Now we can perform any of the operations. So one operation is comparison operation, another operation is this is equal to or not equal to, this is comparison operation, and there are two subtraction operations, right? So if you go back, so there are two subtraction, y minus x or x minus y. So right now I am drawing two subtraction block. Okay, although I can optimize it and use one single subtraction block, but as of now let's draw all the blocks. So now what will happen? This loop is running, okay, and x could store either the input value or it can store the modified value, right? It can store the modified value. So I need some multiplexer, right? So why do we need multiplexer? To take a particular input, right? So we need some select lines. So I need some x select line for the x input and y select line for y input, right? So x select line will be basically it is 0, then it will take the input, otherwise it will take the modified value of x, right? Also these are nothing but your control signals. So when you have to start the process, so x load and y load, so when x load and y load will work, when you will get the go signal. If you are not getting go signal, that means inputs are not available, so x load and y load will be 0, right? So these are the control signals. So the selection lines and load signals are coming from the controller, right? Here the not equal to operations are there. Here you are comparing x with y, and here finally you are getting the output, right? So in this case you see that you need minimum 10 number of state if you don't optimize anything, and we need 4 number of flip-flops. Now what is our aim? Our aim is to reduce the number of functional blocks and to reduce the number of states, because actually it requires the less hardware. So if I draw a complete model, so this is your the controller and this is your data path, right? So if I enumerate all the states, what could be the states? As I told that I need 4 number of bits to assign the states. So 4 number of bits means it could be 0 0 0 0 0 0 1 0 0 1 and so on to 1 1 0 0, right? So if I draw the controller implementation model, it could be like this. So we have some combinational logics and these are some state registers. So minimum there are 4 number of registers are required to implement this particular GCD. Now if I want to optimize this state diagram, what could be the possibilities? So if you reduce the you have to satisfy the design metrics. So what are the optimization opportunities you have? You can either modify the original program, so you can write a new set of codes which will be needing less states and less number of functional units, or you can optimize or AND, right? I should write both, or AND. You can optimize the FSMD, finite state machine with data path, or you can only optimize the data path, or you can only optimize the finite state machine. So if I modify the original program, so what could be the possibilities? So I can reduce the number of computation, right? I have to optimize the program in such a way I could be able to reduce the number of computation. I could reduce the size of variable, time and space complexity, and number of operations used. So I could write let's suppose take the example of GCD again. So there we used Euclid's algorithm to compute the GCD. So where we need 3 operations. One is addition, the one is subtraction, not equal to, and comparison, and fourth one is assignment operator also, right? So can I write a program in a different way where I can reduce the number of operators? Okay, that is one possibility. Another possibility is in your program you have to minimize the number of multiplication and division operations, because they are hardware expensive operations, right? So if I modify the original program in another way, so this was the original program in which we have used not equal to, this one, the comparison operation and subtraction, also assignment operations. So there are 4 operators here, right? So if I optimize the program, what could be the possibilities? One possibility is I will not go to the 2J state, I will just write in self loop. Second thing is I will write this program in another way. Okay, so what is the possibility we have? Okay, so I am writing the program in a different way, so I can compute the GCD in another way also. So what could be the possibility? So let's take the same GCD computation 15 and 10. Okay, so what is the possibility? So I can use divisor, right? So modulus operation. So what I will do, I will check that which one is greater, x is greater or y is greater, right? So if x is greater, you assign xi to x, yi to y, else you will assignment. So assignment operator is complete here. Okay, now second case, what you do, you divide it. So let's suppose if I divide 15 and 10, so what is the possibility? So this is 1 and leftover is 5. So this is nothing but your modulus. Okay, so 5 is your modulus or remainder. So r is nothing but your remainder. Is it clear? So if I divide x and y, if the remainder is 5, that is nothing but your GCD. Is it clear or not? Okay, so but you have to check that you are dividing until and unless this will be 0, right? You should not get it 0 if both are equal. So let's suppose if x and y both are equal, let's suppose 15 15, if I divide it, what will happen? You will get 1 and the remainder will be 0, right? So in this way, if you see, if you implement GCD in this way, if you see the number of computations, what are the number of computations you are using? So here you have assignment operator, here also we have assignment operator, and we have one more operator, that is modulus operator. So how many operators we are using? We are using only two main operators. One is assignment operator and another is modulus operator. But here we need 4 number of operators or 4 functional unit, right? So here we need 4 functional unit, here you need 2 number of units. So if I compute the GCD of 42 and 8, it needs 9 iteration to complete the loop, while here you need only 3 iteration to complete the loop. So which one is most faster? So if you see, I just modified the program and I written a different way, and I could able to reduce the complexity a lot, right? So only 3 iteration I could find the GCD. Is it clear? So this is one kind of optimization, and another optimization could be FSMD, right? So how do you modify the FSMD? So what are the possible modification? So you can merge states. So if you compare with the last FSMD, what are the states you can merge? One state you can merge is self loop, right? If there is a self loop, there is no need of separate state, so that will come in the self state, right? Another states could be merged when there are assignment operations. For example, xi was assigned to x and yi was assigned to y. So those numbers are independent to each other, so they can be assigned in the same state. So we don't need separate state to assign them, so we can merge those states, right? And there are some separate states. So if you want to reduce the complexity of the program, if you have a lot of multiplication, you can broken into smaller state to reduce the hardware size. And another possibility is scheduling, right? So you can schedule that operations after one another. So in such a way, I can optimize the FSMD. Okay, so I'll see how could I optimize the FSMD. So if you see, this is the original FSMD. Okay, so this is the optimized FSMD. So first state is not required because this is nothing but a transition which has constant values, right? So no need of this state. Now this is self loop, so that could be assigned in the self loop itself, so no need of extra state. Now next state is you can merge 3 and 4 state. So as those are independent variables, so you could do assignment in the same state itself, so that 3 and 4 could be merged. Now here 5 and 6 could be merged. Why? Because 5 or 6 stage means it is a comparison operation, so x is equals to y or not, right? So it will go either of two states. It cannot go simultaneously two states. So those operations could be merged here, and those are independent operations, right? So 5 or 5, sorry, 5j or 6j could be removed in that case. Now last stage is nothing but you can obtain the directly from output from the last stage itself, so we don't need the last stage, that is 1j state. Is it clear? 1j state means again you are going in that loop now, so that is the 1j state, so that is not required. So this is your optimized FSMD. So if you see this your optimized FSMD, what number of states are? 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and there is one more, that is 6th one. So we need 6 number of states. 6 number of state means we need 3 bits only, or 3 number of flip-flops. So our hardware complexity is also reduced, right? So now the third possibility is to optimize the data path. So data paths, what are there? Functional unit. So if you go to the last slide again, so let me go to the last slide. So here you see that I have used 2 subtractor here, but both the subtractors are not in single state, right? So it will go either in this path or this path. So subtractors are not used simultaneously, right? So I could optimize the subtractor. I could use only a single subtractor, right? So this is what I have written here. So what you can do, you can reduce the functional unit. So that is one is subtractor, right? So if any other functional unit also can be shared, that also you can share it, right? Now you can optimize the multifunctional unit. What is the meaning of multifunctional unit? So for example, you could have complete ALU, or you could have only some part of what we call some blocks of functional unit, right? So ALU contains all the functional units such as adder, subtractor, assignment, everything, right? But you can use separately also. So you have to decide this one is more costly, or if you use individual functional unit, those will be more costly, right? So that is optimization problem, right? So you can either choose ALU or you can choose individual blocks itself, right? So in that way also you can optimize the FSM, optimize the overall basically overall hardware, right? Last possibility is you can modify the FSM itself. So what is the modification? As I already told, state encoding. So in the optimized FSMD, you see that we need only 3 bits. So that means we need only 3 bits to encode all the states. So that is nothing but we need 3 number of flip-flops. Another possibility is you assign unique bit pattern to each state. So that will reduce the that will optimize the finite state machine, right? Also the size, okay, if you vary the size depending on the finite state machine, you could again optimize the FSM, right? Another thing is state minimization. So if you are merging 2 states into a single state, so that is possible if you input combinations. For all input combination, the 2 states generate the same outputs and transition to the next same state. So that is nothing but your kind of self loop. Okay, so in this way you can modify the finite state machine. So these are some of the optimization issues. So when you are designing a single purpose processor, we have to take care of. So now let's take another example. Okay, let's take another example. So let's suppose you want to design a system which will monitor the temperature, right? So let's say you are designing a system which is taking the input of temperature, right? And there are some events. Okay, so you want to design an event based processor, right? So you are getting an events after every, let's say 10 millisecond. Okay, so this is your 10 milliseconds. So you are getting in events, basically events you are getting after every 10 millisecond. So it's a very simple system. What this system does, the temperature is greater than certain threshold, you start the fan. If your temperature is below a certain another threshold, you start the heat. Right, so it's kind of AC which provides the fan and heat operations, right? So it needs some two thresholds. There could be normal threshold also, right? So one is threshold 1 and another is threshold 2. So this is the basically very simple system we want to design. So what the system does? What the system does? Again, you write the very simple algorithm. So what the system does? If first you read the event. So on event, read temperature. So it has to read temperature every 10 millisecond, right? Then if temperature is let's say capital T I am using here, so use capital T. If temperature is greater than threshold 1, then you start fan. Okay, or if temperature is less than threshold 2, then you start heat. So this is a very simple algorithm, right? So you can draw the FSMD for this also, finite state machines with data path, right? So what is the data path? So if I see the data path, it needs it has three functional unit. One is greater than, less than, and another is will be assignment operation, right? Now you can draw the FSMD for this one. Okay, so I am giving this work as a homework for you. Okay, home assignment. You try to draw the control path and data path for this system, right? Now suppose you have some system, right? So let's say that you have a bigger system. So these systems examples we have seen very small systems, right? So now you have a system which has a large code, like it's a lot of lines of code, right? So it is very difficult to understand the behavior of the circuit, right? So we cannot understand the behavior of the circuit because there are lot of states. So for that, to enable the behavior, to analyze the behavior of the circuit, there are different EDA tools. Right? So what these EDA tools write the program either in VHDL or Verilog. Okay, and using that VHDL or Verilog code, it draws the state chart. So using this state chart, you can optimize the FSMD or you can modify the original program to get the final optimization, right? So these EDA tools, what these EDA tools do, you are giving some specification of the system. So let's say you want to design a system, the same system, let's say you want to design a system which will start the fan or it will start the heat based on some threshold. So how the system is going to behave? So this is a specification you have given, that I want to design a system which should start fan or heat based on some thresholds, right? And every 10 millisecond it has to check the temperature, right? So I have given some specification. So you know, EDA tools are having design compilers, so they will compile the specification itself and it will provide you the data path and control path. Now you can optimize actually. After optimization you can go for implementation of that system, right? So these are the basic examples. So I hope that you have understood how the embedded systems are designed, right? Now let's come back to again the processors. So we have studied three kinds of processor. One is general purpose processor, another is ASICs, and last one is ASIC. Okay, so if we talk about ASICs, we have seen that we have some flexibility, right? But these are not actually the hardware level programs, like these are not synthesizable programs, right? So what should I do? Okay, and these are completely hardwares, so we don't have any flexibility to change any code or to optimize anything, right? This is nothing but a final product, right? Final hardware product, right? Hardware is the kind of software also, but this is the final product. Now we have in between ASICs and ASIC, there is another category of processor. Those are nothing but programmable logic devices. So these logic devices are programmable, right? So let's suppose you want to conduct some of the blocks, and you want to not conduct some of the blocks, so you can vary, right? But these are not programmable, these are hardwired. So what these devices does, they produce a kind of application specific requirements, but you can program those designs. So let's suppose you have the idea of a design, now I want to design an ASIC for that design. So I cannot directly go for the implementation, right? So first you have to check in a program, right? So how will I check the program? So these kind of ASICs processor give only programs, right? It does not provide you the detailed workflow of the hardware. But these programmable logic devices will give you all the state machines, right? State diagrams, and it will give you bit pattern how it is going to work. But these are programmable, right? And in fact, based on the output, you can certainly optimize your program or finite state machine or FSMD, etc. Right? And one of the important programmable logic devices which are available in the market and very important, those are called as field programmable gate array, that is called as FPGA. So what you do, whatever the idea is there, you implement that idea on FPGA and it will give you a synthesizable form, some set of very low or HDL codes which you can modify, right? So this gives you flexibility to program some connections. Okay, so in digital electronics you might have studied PLDs, right? What are the PLDs actually? So PLDs, what are those PLDs? So PLDs are nothing but some connections. So we can implement any functions. We can implement any functions using AND gate and OR gates, right? So we have studied this in a digital circuit design. So you can implement any functions using AND gates and OR gates, right? So for example, let's say a function which is nothing but xy plus yz complement plus zx complement. So you want to implement this function. So what we will do? What I will do, from these lines, let's suppose I am getting an x, okay, I am getting y, okay, and I have y here. Sorry, this y can be used directly. So let's say this is z bar and this is your z and x complement. So these are available, signal available to you, and this you can simply add it here, and this also you can feed it here, okay, and this you feed it here, and you add all the outputs. So you will get here function f, right? And how will you get this x and y? Okay, so this is nothing but your over plane, this is your end plane, right? So these are the PLDs which you have studied in the digital circuit, right? So you might have studied, suppose you want to make a connection, so we have to mark cross here, right? So cross means these lines are conducting. So this line and this line is conducting, this line and this line are connected, okay. Similarly, the same logic are used in field programmable gate array. So what is that field programmable gate array? So let's suppose if I draw internal blocks of FPGA. So what these FPGA contain? So these are containing some thousands of several thousands of configurable logic blocks. Okay, so these are nothing but your CLBs, configurable logic blocks. So we have several thousands of configurable blocks, okay. So we have several thousand of configurable logic blocks. So there are different kinds of FPGA. So depending on the FPGA, the CLBs will be varying. So around approximately 300,000 CLBs are there in an FPGA. So what are there other than that? There are a lot of pins outside the FPGA. There are a lot of pins. Using those pins, you can interface, right? You can interface external devices. Now there are some interconnections like PLDs. So there are some interconnections. So like these, there are interconnections in between those logic blocks. So your drawing is not correct, but you can understand. Now these interconnections, these are interconnections which are programmable. These are programmable. Now what is the meaning of programmable? Programmable means, let's suppose if you want to connect these blocks, so what I will do, I will join these wire here and wire here, so that means they are connected. Now once this is hardwired, I cannot change, right? I cannot vary that how many CLBs I want to use and what are the interconnections which I want to use. So what these FPGA does, they make this programmable. So these interconnections are programmable. Now how will you program them actually? Suppose I want to connect these two interconnections. So how will I make it programmable? So those are done using transistors. Okay, those are done. It is done using transistors. So the next lecture we will continue with this FPGA. We will continue with the FPGA and we will see that how these